In this episode, we break down one of the biggest roadblocks to personal growth: comparison. It's so easy to feel stuck when looking at others racing ahead, but the truth is, the only journey that matters is your own. Your path is unique, your timeline is your own, and every step you take matters. Whether it's overcoming setbacks, letting go of unrealistic expectations, or simply learning to celebrate your small wins, today is about shifting your focus back to what truly counts: your own progress. And remember, success isn't about speed, it's about direction. Welcome to Lucky episode number 13. And it is lucky, and maybe even fateful, that you are here, especially if you're wondering how to take that next step forward, or how to even know what the next step is, but you see everyone else is taking steps and you just can't figure out how to get where they are going. Or if you feel like that next step is a step off a cliff, don't worry, we're going to do this together. We will dive into the mindset, motivation, and strategies for living your best life. We're going to talk about one of the biggest roadblocks to personal growth: comparison. We live in a world where it's easier than ever to compare our lives to others. I mean, you see it every day in social media. You feel like everyone but you is living their best life, posting pics of their vacations, their amazing meals dining out, their wonderful love life, their toned bodies. So, how can you get on that train? How do you get to ride their journey? But the truth is, the only journey that matters is your own. And let's face it, most of what we see on social media is BS. It's carefully crafted and cropped just to show what others want you to see, but it's not the whole story. So let's look at your own story and let's read it out loud and proud and focus on turning a page, just one page. Now, the easiest way to feel stuck and not know the next step is that you're looking too far down the road. It's great to have goals and be ambitious, but looking too far ahead stops you from focusing on what's right in front of you. And just like if you literally look too far down the road as you're walking, you can easily allow yourself to trip up. If you feel like the work in front of you is just too hard, it's too much, maybe it's because you're looking at the entire mountain instead of focusing on that next step. So today, let's break that down. Let's talk about climbing your own mountain, one step at a time, without worrying about who's ahead, who's behind, or how your path compares to anyone else's. We all do it. We scroll through social media, we see someone else's success, what they have, who they have, what they're doing, and what we're not doing. And immediately we feel like we're falling behind. Someone else is getting the promotion, that dream vacation, the relationship, the recognition. Meanwhile, you're over here wondering why your journey isn't moving at the same speed. But here's the thing: you're not running their race, and you're not climbing their mountain. You're climbing your own mountain. And mountains are not climbed in one or two steps. You don't just leapfrog to the summit and get plant your flag. You train, you get the right gear, and you take small steps. And most importantly, you keep moving. So instead of seeing the whole challenge in front of you and getting overwhelmed, break it down into more manageable actions. Ask yourself, what small steps can I take today? What little hills can I climb now to prepare for the bigger ones ahead? What gear do I need? How do I prepare for the journey? Think about any major goal: starting a business, writing a book, maybe even losing weight or learning a new skill, or even a small goal of just getting through the day without losing yourself to stress and ending the day in a puddle of negative emotions. None of this happens overnight. It happens with consistent effort, one small trek at a time. In episode 2 of my podcast, I shared a story of an amazingly resilient person who focused on that consistent change, where they went from using a walker to swimming 50 laps, and that took over a year of small actions. And that's what this whole podcast is all about, and especially today. It's about those little by littles. Maybe you're looking at your baby weight, but it took you 9 months to create a human, and you had to gain weight to nourish that baby. And yes, it may take you just as long to get yourself feeling back to your old self. I don't say it's going to take that long to lose weight because that's not the focus. It feels like it is, but it's really about getting you feeling your healthy, beautiful self, whatever that is for you, but giving yourself love and grace and time. And in my example, sure, I could look at all the podcasts getting millions of downloads, and mine, honestly, is only getting hundreds. But that can't be my focus, or I'd never record another one. One of the biggest mistakes we make is assuming we should all be at the same point as someone else. But we don't know their full story. We don't know the challenges they faced, the setbacks they overcame, or honestly, even if they're truly happy, or how anybody has helped them move along. What we see is only the highlight reel. So imagine two different people climbing a mountain. One person has been training for years. They have all the best equipment and they know the terrain backwards and forwards. They've spent years, maybe decades, climbing mountains, and they have all the experience behind them to deal with whatever comes into their path. Now, the other person is just starting out, still figuring out how to take those first steps, but at least trying and taking one step at a time. If the beginner spends all their time looking at the experienced climber, they will feel so discouraged, so behind on their journey, that they might never take another step. But if they focus on their own path, their own pace, knowing that they had the courage to start and to keep going, they'll get stronger, they'll get better, they'll learn the paths and the trails. And one day they'll look back and see just how far they've come, and then they too can become the inspiration to show that it is possible. And that's really the only reason that you look at someone else's journey, not to compare, but to know that it can be done and maybe to see how they managed over that mountain so you can learn from them. Learn what steps they took that might help you. And while you're taking those steps, remember to focus on the small wins. Sometimes we underestimate the power of small victories. Every single step you take, no matter how small, is proof that you're moving forward. So celebrate those little wins. Finished a chapter of that book you're writing? That's a win. Maybe you only did one page of writing. That's still a win. Finally started that workout routine? That's progress. And it's okay to look back as long as you are not looking back in regret or looking back in longing. Look back to see how far you've come, and then look forward to remind yourself of where you're going and that your path is clear. And if it's not clear, figure out what you need to clean up. Figure out what you need to move out of your way, whether that's negativity, people holding you back, or maybe your own self doubt. Learning to acknowledge your own growth, your own wins, no matter how small, is just as important as setting big goals. And remember, progress is not always linear. Life is up, and then it's down, and then it's back up again, and sometimes it's a little bit sideways. Some days you feel unstoppable and you can take on anything and face anything that comes your way. Other days, you might feel stuck again, as if quicksand is all around you. But every step still matters. Every effort compounds over time, so that one step isn't just a step. It becomes the life you've imagined and are now creating. And again, growth isn't about speed, it's about direction. So, what's the next step for you? Forget about where others are. The only comparison you need to be doing is to your own previous self, your own yesterday, and where you are today and where you're headed tomorrow. Forget about how far you still have to go. Just focus on that next step. Whether it's applying for a job, signing up for that class, reaching out to a mentor, or simply showing up today as you've done by listening to this podcast. Keep showing up with effort and take that step. Because every great journey, whether it's 10,000 miles or just a few feet forward, they all start the same way. You guessed it, with one step. There's an old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. Big goals, big dreams, big challenges. They all feel impossible when you look at the whole thing. But when you break it down, when you focus on small, manageable pieces, you realize that progress is always within reach. Maybe right now you're staring at something that feels impossible. Maybe you're doubting yourself because someone else makes it look easy, and honestly, maybe it is easier for them. Maybe they've had different experiences in their lives that allowed that. And, well, does that suck when you think, well, why can't it be that easy for me? Well, sure, but it is what it is. And none of us can change our pasts or how we got here. So you got to let that go. You can't change your past, but you sure as heck can change your present and prepare for the future that you can see. And remember, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So see it and believe it's possible. Your journey is yours. Own it, move at your own pace, and keep taking those small steps. Now, let's talk about setbacks because they will happen. Maybe you'll fail an exam, miss an opportunity, or make a mistake. It happens to all of us. And yes, even those on social media that look like they have it all together. Believe 100% they have fallen, they've had setbacks, and it's all part of the process. Setbacks are not the end of the road, they're just part of the journey. Think of it this way: when a hiker stumbles on the trail, they don't turn around and say, well, that's it, going back down the mountain. They get up, they adjust their footing, and they keep climbing. The same applies to you. Your setbacks do not define you, how you respond to them does. It's that saying of, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. What matters is how many times you get back up. When you hit a roadblock, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What adjustments do I need to make? How can I keep moving forward? And that person I spoke about in episode 2, what's even more inspiring is that they too had their own setback recently, and they feel like they're starting over. But you know what the difference is now? They are not starting from scratch. They are starting from experience. They know all the progress they made before, so now they know what's possible. They know they can get there again, and so can you. Another thing we need to focus on is the unrealistic timelines that we sometimes put on ourselves. We're often in such a rush to get to the destination and, again, try to do it as quick as everybody else that we forget to appreciate the journey. But real growth happens in the process. Trust your own timing. Trust that every step, every challenge, and every lesson is shaping you into the person you're meant to become. Success is not about being the fastest, it's about being consistent. And when I say success, what does that mean to you? It doesn't have to be the big house, the high paying job. It could simply be getting up in the morning and focusing on self care every day. And remember, there's no such thing as failure. If you learn and grow from mistakes, and at whatever pace is right for you, it's not failure. And in fact, adds more to your success in that knowledge and experience that you got from the situation. Stay committed to your journey, even when the progress feels slow, because one day you'll look back and realize that every small step you took was leading you exactly where you needed to be. And where you are is always where you are meant to be. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to take a deep breath and remind yourself you are exactly where you need to be. Your journey is unfolding in its own way, in its own time, exactly in the way it is supposed to be for you. Stop comparing to anyone else but your prior self. And even then, don't wish for those times of what you were like when you were in your 20s or your 30s or as a kid. Those times were the stepping stones to today, so use them to move forward. Stop doubting and just take the next step. Thank you so much for taking time today to do something for yourself. Choosing to listen in is one of those steps in your journey. And if today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, or two, or three, who needs to hear this message so they too can appreciate and focus on their own journey. Stay focused, stay motivated, and most importantly, stay true to your own journey. And remember, whether it's just focusing on one foot in front of the other, or you're moving over one of those little hills, or tackling something even steeper, keep climbing, keep moving forward one step at a time so that you move your life in the only way and direction that your life is meant to move for you, little by little and piece by piece. This podcast is based on my own life experiences. I'm not a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any other licensed medical professional. Please share this podcast with anyone you think needs to hear this so that we all move forward, little by little and piece by piece. And thank you, Purple Planet, for sharing your music.